Hi Year 4, we are looking at another new writing skill today, although we have looked at it once already in a Tiger video. Can you use pronouns and nouns to avoid repetition? So repetition means repeating something, using it too many times. This video just like a spag session, so get yourself ready now with your topic books or your notebooks, pencil and a rubber, and pause the video anytime you need to. So nouns and pronouns, let's remind ourselves what those are. A noun is a name of something, and a pronoun is a word used to replace that noun. For example, English Martyrs is filled with love. It is a wonderful school. So English Martyrs is the noun in that sentence. It is the pronoun in the second sentence. We don't have to repeat English Martyrs because our reader or our listener understands that it means English Martyrs. It would sound a bit boring to say English Martyrs is filled with love, English Martyrs is a wonderful school. So we just use that pronoun to avoid repeating ourselves. Now, I've had a go at some creative writing today because I was feeling in the mood for a nice narrative, a fun narrative. So I'm inventing this story about, well, you'll see what it's about in a minute. So let's listen to the first paragraph and I want you to see if you can spot the pronouns or nouns that I've used. As the sun set over the rooftops, pigeons in their nests cooed contentedly to other pigeons. All was quiet in the town. With the last embers of light fading into dusk, the people of the town turned off the lamps and drifted into sleep. All was dark. All that was, except for one last ray of sunlight. So I'm quite pleased with that first paragraph. I think looking at it now, I might have used pigeons twice. Pigeons in their nests, contentedly to other pigeons, which doesn't sound quite right. And then we've got the people of the town turning off the lamps. Do I mean their lamps or someone else's lamps? There's a few things in there that aren't quite working because of my noun and pronoun choice. So let's look at an improved version. What do you think about the changes I've made? As the sun set over the sleepy rooftops, the drowsy pigeons in their cosy nests cooed contentedly to themselves. All was quiet in the tidy little town. With the last embers of light fading into dusk, the good folk of Long Eaton turned off their lamps and drifted into peaceful sleep. All was dark. All that was, except for one last ray of sunlight. So I made a couple of changes there. I've said that the pigeons cooed contentedly to themselves. So themselves is a really useful pronoun there to avoid repeating the word pigeons too much. And then I did change it to say the good folk of Long Eaton turned off their lamps. Our reader then knows it's their bedside lamps, it's the lamps that belong to them, because we've got a possessive pronoun there. So hopefully you could see that the first paragraph on my last slide was a little bit clunky because I repeated a few words. But here, I'm hoping you can spot that I've improved it a little bit. Right, in your topic books or your notepads, I'd like you to write down 3 nouns that you can see in there. And can you spot 3 pronouns? I'm not sure if I've used 3, but let's see. Write down 3 nouns and see if you can find 3 pronouns. Pause the video if you need to, but if not, let's have a look. The nouns you could have chosen: rooftops, that's a noun, it's the name of something. Pigeons, nests, town, embers, those are really good nouns. Sunlight. But what about the pronouns? Did I use any? So their, the pigeons in their cosy nests. Themselves, so their and themselves. And I've used their again in the second paragraph. So there was 3, but 2 of them were repeated. Now I know this lesson is all about not repeating yourself, but I think those two pronouns, there and there, are separated across two paragraphs, so I don't think that matters to me that they're repeated. It's okay to use the same one twice if it flows nicely in your paragraph. Right, let's see if I've used any other skills from my writing ladder. Over the sleepy rooftops. We've looked at these already. These are noun phrases expanded by adjectives. So my noun, rooftops, was expanded by an adjective describing it as sleepy. And I've also used a preposition there, over the sleepy rooftops. So that's definitely something from my Year 4 writing ladder. What else can you spot? Have I used any other noun phrases? Good, well done. Drowsy pigeons in their cosy nests. So I'm definitely using some good skills in here. And there are those pronouns. Oh, and another noun phrase, good folk of Long Eaton. Not just the people. I've changed a slightly boring noun, people, into an interesting noun phrase, good folk of Long Eaton. Right. In the next paragraph, I want to describe the ray of light, and I want to explain to my reader that it's in a very special place. I'm going to set it in the light room of English martyrs. So could you try using these nouns or pronouns in a sentence or two that could describe in your story what a ray of light might look like or might do when it finds itself in the light room? Give you a few minutes to write a sentence or two using either sunlight, ray, it, or itself, nouns or pronouns. Pause the video. If not, let's have a look at an example that I have done. The last ray of sunlight shot through the glass window of the light room and found itself in that special place, just as the world outside grew dark. So I've used ray and sunlight, and I've also used itself, found itself. You'll notice if you're using one of these reflexive pronouns, itself, yourself, himself, theirselves, you will always have a verb in front of it. Found itself. Saw itself in a mirror. Found itself in that special place. There'll always be a verb in front of one of those reflexive pronouns. Okay, I hope you had a good sentence too. Read it out loud. Good. Love it. Can we use those sentences in different ways? Can we build up sentences to flow together to create a small paragraph? You could use a different noun or a pronoun in each of your sentences to avoid repeating yourself. So I've given you a few more options now. Sunlight, glimmer, gleam, or ray. These are all synonyms, meaning words that mean the same. Sunlight, glimmer, gleam, or ray. And then 3 pronouns to choose from, it, its, itself. Remember that last one is our reflexive pronoun, and it would have a verb in front of it. Caught itself, watched itself, something like that. So try 3 sentences which flow together. You could use the one you've just written in your Spag book as your first of the 3, and then add 2 sentences on. Still about the same idea, because a paragraph should be about the one key idea. So we're using these words to just give our reader or our listener a bit more information. Off you go. Pause the video if you need to. Here's my example. The last ray of sunlight shot through the glass window of the light room and found itself in that special place, just as the world outside grew dark. The glimmer of light was not afraid of the night, for it knew its glow was powerful. It knew that all it had to do was wait for the morning, when the rest of the sun would burst through the windows again. Quite pleased with that. I've used sunlight, I've used ray, I've used glimmer, and I've used itself, it. Now you could choose to give your ray of light a gendered pronoun. You could start referring to it as he or she. And we've currently got the non-gendered pronoun it. So that could be something you think about doing in your story. Right, read your paragraph out loud. Sounding good. Did you notice when you read it out loud that you'd actually missed a word that you thought you'd written? That often happens. So make any changes you need to, and then we'll move on. Right, using your skills effectively in your writing means, are they creating the effect that you want? Right at the beginning of the year, we looked at making improvements to grammar and vocabulary. So you have to be really careful with the word choices you make to make sure it is creating the effect you want in your reader. Now, I'm not going to read mine through again, but I'm going to pick out some of the phrases that I think are effective. I'm very proud of the bit at the beginning, sleepy rooftops, drowsy pigeons. I think that sets the scene in my story really well. It's a quiet town, sleepy, calm. Nothing very exciting is happening by the sounds of things. It's peaceful as well. I don't want my reader to be anxious or worried in this story. I want them to feel peaceful. I quite like the expression found itself. The sunlight shot through the glass window and found itself. It's almost surprised by being in there. It found itself in that special place. So I'm pleased with that pronoun use. But there are one or two things I'm not entirely happy about. So read through your work so far. Put your very first paragraph together with your second one. And maybe underline anything you really love and underline anything you think actually needs to be improved. And we'll look together on my next slide on how to make those improvements. So pause this video while you look over your work. Right. As the sun set over the sleepy rooftops, the drowsy pigeons in their cosy nests cooed contentedly to themselves. All was quiet in the tidy little town. Yeah, I'm pleased with that one. With the last embers of light fading into dusk, the good folk of Long Eaton turned off their lamps and drifted into peaceful sleep. All was dark. Yes, I like that. I've split the next bit, all that was except for one ray of light, into its own paragraph. Now, often we say a paragraph should have 3 to 5 sentences in it, but that's not true. They should be about one key idea. And I think that little single sentence paragraph, I'm quite pleased with that now, because it introduces the idea that there's one ray of light that's been separated from the rest. Now, it's this last paragraph that I'm less keen on. The last ray of sunlight shot through the glass window of the light room and found itself in that special place, just as the world outside grew dark. The glimmer of light was not afraid of the night. It's that bit. It's the fact that I've got that word night in there. And I looked closely and thought, why has that jumped out at me as not being right? Why is it something I want to change and improve? And I realised it's because earlier on in that same sentence I used the word light. The glimmer of light was not afraid of the night. It's got a strange kind of rhyme in it that I didn't want. It wasn't something I intended and is now something I want to change. So I want a synonym for night. I want to use a better word for night. But I've already used the word dark in the previous sentence. So I don't want to repeat myself. I don't want to use dark twice in the space of 2 sentences. That's what this whole learning challenge is about. So I've had a little think and I've gone for dusk. Dusk was a word I used earlier on in the story in the last paragraph. So I think it's okay to repeat it again now. Yeah, I'm pleased with that improvement. Okay, so you should by now have a couple of paragraphs. You should have given yourself opportunity and time to manipulate and make improvements. And hopefully you've read that paragraph out loud. If not, do it now, because it's not until you read it out loud that you can hear the choices that you've made. Excuse me. So have your phrases created the effect you want? Have you used enough skills from your writing ladder? Or is there something missing? I think we could add a bit of direct speech for our next step. Now, Mrs. Oldershaw has done a really good video about speech punctuation. I want you to go and have a look at, to remind you of those rules of punctuating your speech. Now, in my story, I'd like the ray of light to find a friend in the light room. It could be, my first thought was it could be an electric candle, or maybe when the sun comes back it finds a friend, but I decided that wouldn't work. And then I thought perhaps the ray of light splits into all the colours of the rainbow. And then what would each of those colours say to each other? And how could we introduce each new character? So that's what I've gone for. I want you to think of either a different idea or using the same idea as me, so that you can introduce some different characters and then they can speak to each other. So I couldn't resist it. I wrote my own next little part of this story. I'm really enjoying this story actually, and this is what I've gone for. The light ray bounced around the room for some time at first, with excitement, then a little concern, and then a growing anxiety. Was it going to be all alone at night? Just as it thought this, its beam glanced against a small prism, sat on a table. At once the beam of light shattered into all the colours of the rainbow. "Whoa," said Blue, "how did that happen?" "I have no idea," laughed Red, "but I love it." "This is amazing," beamed Yellow, as she danced around the room. So that's how my story is going to take shape. I think we're going to have all of these different colours of the rainbow bouncing around the room, and I think when morning comes they'll have realised they love their new rainbow form, and they're going to shoot out the ceiling window of the light room, and they're going to shine over all of Long Eaton, and that's how my story is going to end. So I'm pleased that I've used a new gendered pronoun. I've got she. Yellow is going to be a female character. What I'm not pleased is I've spotted a spelling mistake, but I can go back and sort that out. I wonder if you spotted it as well. We can learn by our mistakes, can't we? That's the whole point of learning. Okay, I'd love you to have a go at your own creative writing, either using my ideas or taking it off into a whole new direction of your own. Have fun, and remember to send them to us so that we can see what you've done. Bye for now.